Here's what's coming up on your horizon. Well, in preparing for today's show on the value of education, I looked at several websites that attempted to put in ROI, which is the abbreviation for return on investment, on educational outcomes. And while I'm fully aware that if you can't measure something, it is hard to accurately judge it, but I also know education changes lives in many ways that are immeasurable. Today, our focus is on how a single individual standing in front of a classroom can impact generations. Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by the Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education.
Oklahoma's investment in career tech provides more than nationally recognized technology education and training. It produces solid financial returns for the state's economic future. Oklahoma Career Tech, elevating our economy.
And the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry, helping good people grow good things. And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. Well, if you're lucky, you've had one, a teacher that impacted your life. It may have been as simple as showing an interest in you when others hadn't, or as complex as opening doors to new worlds of thought and discovery you never knew existed. Today, we're going to meet some individuals who have dedicated their lives to the education of others, and we begin by heading to the far reaches of western Oklahoma. Here's our Austin Moore.
If you were to mistake Tanner Thompson for one of his agricultural education students, you would be forgiven. Not only because he looks and, in fact, is young, but because this sixth-year teacher is usually working beside his students rather than lecturing them from the front.
Agricultural education excels because it is hands-on. We're teaching a lot of the same principles that are being taught in the core classes, reinforcing what those science and math teachers are teaching, but we're doing so in a way that the students can grasp what's going on. They can get their hands dirty and understand those same principles, but in a very realistic manner.
Lessons learned in this manner tend to stick. They stuck so well to former Cheyenne FFA student and current Congressman Frank Lucas that he still calls on them today.
The skills that I had an opportunity to develop in this particular program, yes, there were public speaking. Yes, we spent a lot of time discussing livestock breeds and health issues, and we discussed how you manage your business as a young farmer rancher starting out. But all of those skills serve a purpose. The techniques you learn here, maybe not everyone is going to go to a four-year comprehensive university. If you are, then everything that you've had in the program will help you. Maybe you're going to go to a community college or a junior college, a two-year program, and then use the skills that you enhance there to move forward. Or Oklahoma has an outstanding career tech system.
For Lucas and his classmates, that foundation was laid by ag teacher Gary Kirk.
So I only had one rule: don't make Kirk mad. And it's up to you to figure out what makes me mad. So therefore, I didn't have any problems.
For 35 years, Kirk used sows, cows, and especially tractors to nourish western Oklahoma's most important crop.
I always had kids that loved the mechanics part, so I had that for them to work on. We'd overhaul them, whatever. I had the kids just like to clean. I had the kids want to do the body work. I had kids that want to do the painting, so I had a little something for everybody.
Those tractors are still around and make occasional public appearance. Marvelous machines, but also a testament to the work Kirk and his students did side by side.
So one of the things we always hear when we talk to ag teachers is that one-on-one time with students that they use in working on projects is also a really good time to relate life lessons. Can you relate any that you learned from Mr. Kirk?
A lot of good advice about everything from the opposite sex to taking care of one's reputation and image in the community to studying hard and having a plan to focusing, a whole bunch of topics. Ironically, as I think back about it now, he wasn't really that much older than me. 14-year-old freshman. This was his second teaching post. He couldn't have been 26 or 27, but he seemed like an awfully mature, worldly guy to me in 1974.
I visited with Mr. Kirk at Baptist Integris Hospital in Oklahoma City, where today he is battling both leukemia and melanoma.
Had an old ag teacher tell me one time, he said, here's my philosophy of teaching. He said, I teach them about life, and if there's any time left, I teach them about agriculture. So I kind of followed that philosophy all through the years.
I found another of Kirk's kids just a few miles away. On the 45th floor of Devon Tower, I spoke with Vice President of Public and Government Affairs, Alan Wright, who says the lessons he learned in Kirk's classroom echo throughout his work today.
Problem solving. I mean, nothing on a farm happens like it does in a textbook, and nothing in that environment is linear and just easily solved. And so you got to think through and adapt and adjust and also deal with reality. And so my experiences in vocational agriculture and being exposed to those experiences have helped me a great deal. And then, you know, the leadership experiences in FFA, it was great leadership training.
But for Wright, it was the life lessons that rooted most deeply.
Well, I think that's where Gary was special, and you know, the best teachers always are. You know, those are the people that open your mind and really kind of go beyond the subject matter. You know, we had, as an organization of FFA, we had officers and we had organized meetings, but Gary would spend a lot of time with us teaching us about life. And he took those opportunities to do it and just spent a lot of time trying to help us grow and think beyond just what was happening right now, which is a typical young person's point of view.
Back in Cheyenne, the community has rallied around Gary Kirk. Blood drives in his honor are working to fill the bank. And every day, volunteers drive him the 2.5 hours to Oklahoma City and back again for his ongoing treatment schedule. The love this town feels for its ag teacher is amazing, but it is hardly unexpected. In fact, that bond between teacher and now community is what led Tanner Thompson to Kirk's old classroom.
That's really the driving force behind why I'm here in the classroom on a daily basis, is to connect with those kids and to be a lasting part of their life. I don't want it to end when they graduate high school. I want to continue to see that through and make sure that they're excelling at whatever they want to do.
That is why Gary Kirk may be in a fight for his life, but he isn't fighting alone.
You don't know who you reach when you're teaching these kids. And it kind of showed me that I done more good than I thought I did.
Well, joining me now in studio is our Austin Moore. Well, Lawson, I was struck by watching your piece that many of the lessons Mr. Kirk was teaching, they weren't lessons taught in the classroom, they were lessons taught outside the classroom.
Absolutely. Mr. Kirk has never shied away from teaching his students something he thought they needed to know, whether it was in the textbook or not. One of my favorite stories that he related to me is that when he graduated high school, the first time he was told he had to go pay taxes, well, he was floored. He didn't know where to go, what to do. So every year he took the seniors down to the courthouse, walked them through every office in that courthouse, told them what they needed to know there, who they needed to talk to, and what they were going to accomplish at that time.
Wow. How is his health?
Well, it's a challenge. Obviously, fighting two forms of cancer simultaneously is it's not ideal. I guess one way to look at it is he is getting to fight them at the same time. They didn't have to extend this fight out. They're kind of taking care of it all together, hopefully. But you know, he's got the right support team behind him. He's got the community all behind him. And hopefully with the right attitude, it's all going to turn out okay.
Yeah, we wish him well in his battles, and I know there are literally generations of people that wish him well in that community.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks so much, Austin. Now, when we return, I sit down with some young people who know firsthand the impact an ag teacher can have on their life.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon, featuring some of the good things that are happening in the great state of Oklahoma.
Well, not only do teachers influence students' lives, but students also impact the lives of their teachers as well. A relationship that is well documented on an instructor's wall at Central Tech and Drumright. J.D. Roseman has our story.
Design and print. For 37 years, Danny Hoggett has been helping students shape and create their future.
That the kids have done as well.
I told a friend one time, being an educator is kind of like being a pastor of a church, you know, in a lot of ways, you know. You got to put the meat on the table every day to make them want they want to come back every day. And at the same time, hold their interest, you know, but yet have a good time while you're doing that, you know.
Something Danny's digital printing and imaging communication program seems to do.
We do silkscreen printing. I have several graduates that work at Eskimo Joe's in Stillwater, and we do vinyl graphics now, which is a lot of fun.
Yet the story only begins here, with a wall filled with memories.
Yeah, this started the first year I went to work here, and I've put every one of these that you see in here up myself. Kids are always asking, why don't you let us put some of your pictures up, Mr. Hoggett? I said, no. It, you know, takes me about an hour to do one panel, but it's a pretty important deal.
Over 2,000 images of each and every student he ever taught, like Debbie Greger, who now teaches with him.
Well, when you go in there and you look at it, it's unbelievable at how many lives that he's touched. Unreal. And you know, it didn't matter if you were a jock in high school or VOAG, it didn't matter. Your picture was just the same as everyone else's right up there on the wall.
A wall of the past, with memories that bring old friends together.
Graduates come back regularly, and in fact, last year I had a young man came back. I hadn't seen him in about 18 years. Walked in, had his son with him. He's about 8 or 9 years old, and immediately after he hugged me and we talked for a minute, he came directly in here. He says, "My picture's still in your office?" And I said, "Yep." So it's, you know, this is usually the first place they come, you know, when they come back, because they want to make sure their picture's here.
He cares. He's very compassionate. He truly wants to help people, you know, be successful. And he loves what he does.
He's touched the hearts of thousands, yet they touched his even more.
They're my kids. You don't spend 2 years with a student and not care about them, you know. So that's why I do it, you know.
Pictures on a wall, for Danny, serve as a reminder of why he does what he does.
Still to come on Oklahoma Horizon, honoring some teaching greats. But first, Oklahoma FFA.
Well, nationwide FFA is right over 610,000 members spread out over 7,600 chapters. And these students from around the country will be gathering in Louisville, Kentucky next week for the 88th National FFA Convention and Expo. And joining me now in studio are two state officers, Kelby Corbett from the Southwest District here in Oklahoma and Markel Harris from Northeastern Oklahoma. Well, I guess my first question to both of you is, why did you become involved in FFA? Kelby?
I joined the FFA my 8th grade year. Growing up, my parents both exhibited livestock. So my mom exhibited cattle and my dad hogs. And so it was just destined that I would be involved in the animal industry and livestock industry as well. So I started showing pigs when I was about 8 years old and continued on in my 8th grade year when I enrolled in FFA. I just traded my green jacket for a blue jacket.
Yeah, and Markel, you grew up in a more metropolitan area. How did you get involved?
In my 8th grade year, I had the opportunity to join FFA, and my grandfather was a member of Arkansas FFA chapter, and he said all his passions for FFA there, and he showed horses and competed in different things. He said, "You should do this, you'll really, really enjoy it."
It should be said FFA offers a lot of things both to urban students and to rural students.
Definitely so. Our organization has over 24 career development events, and my ag teacher was like, we're starting a new team and I think that you'll be good on it. And I decided to take the chance and sat on it my junior year. Basically this contest was the ins and outs of food development and marketing and things like that within this contest, and so we got to make our own products, and we actually were state champions that year as a first-year team.
Now, I know for really chapters all across the state, service projects are a big part of what you do. Tell me about some of the things that you're involved in here in Oklahoma.
And this was implemented a couple years ago. The state officer team encouraged each chapter in the state of Oklahoma to donate at least one animal to the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. These animals would then be processed into pork and beef sticks to go home to backpack challenges, which is something that I had in my home chapter. And the backpack challenge was a program that sends home backpacks with children who may not be able to get enough nourishment over the weekend. And last year's officer team set the goal of each chapter donating at least one animal, and they exceeded that goal with over 381 donations. And so we were super excited. We kind of sat down with the food bank this summer and got the final tally, and we were so excited that every chapter had taken part in this and then some. And so we are glad to be helping Oklahomans across the state.
A new thing we added this year as an officer team is the Cents Make Sense, which we asked chapters to add on an extra 25 cents to the meat sales, which will all be gathered up as a whole and given to the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma, which will help support the beef for backpacks and the porks for packs to when they were kind of like to help pay for the processing and get all the processing for those packs taken care of and sustainable.
Now, I know something that is important to anyone that's ever gone through the FFA, something they've all done, is memorize their creed, and this is the 85th anniversary of that creed. And I know a chapter in Burlington, Oklahoma was instrumental in honoring the man who wrote it.
The FFA Creed by E.M. Tiffany. I believe
in the future of agriculture, with a faith born
not of words, but of deeds. Achievements won
by the present and past generations of agriculturists.
Bradshaw and student Bailey Hyde traveled to the National FFA Center in Indianapolis to look for information surrounding the creed and its author.
There were many letters dating back from the 50s and 60s of people who had written the FFA asking for information on E.M. Tiffany. And we thought, what a great opportunity to answer some of those questions.
And they did. Bradshaw met with Jackson Tiffany, the son of the creed's author, and learned about the man behind the words, written so many decades ago.
I would like to tell you about the work of my father, Irwin M. Tiffany.
A story being told in a Kansas museum and documentary, all created by Bradshaw.
I believe in less dependence on begging
and more power in bargaining, in the life abundant and enough honest wealth to help make it so.
The insight and the passion for somebody to write a creed over 85 years ago and to have it still stand true today with only a couple of changes, that in itself is inspirational.
Now, this is also the 50th anniversary of the merger between the FFA and the NFA. Tell us, if you will, Markel, a little bit about the NFA.
The New Farmers of America were organized in Tuskegee, Alabama, and got their membership in 1938. They provided African Americans to be involved in agriculture and vocational agriculture and leadership activities just as FFA members were. And then NFA and FFA merged in 1968.
Yeah, well, certainly an important organization, one that has a great legacy, and one that we actually have a story on our website if you'd like to learn more about the history of the NFA. Kelby, Markel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Want to share something you've seen here today? Well, all of our episodes are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV, or you can subscribe to our weekly free podcasts on iTunes.
Well, members of the Latta FFA chapter were honored for their work recycling water by a local conservation group. The chapter used a $2,000 grant from the National FFA to install a rainwater collection system they now plan to market. For FFA advisor Seth Reeves, when it comes to rain, every drop counts.
I just wanted to start looking at ways that we could here at the Ag Building
teach people and show people an actual model on how to reclaim and harvest some of these natural resources to use in the future with the drought.
Using gutters and barrels, Reeves FFA chapter devised an inexpensive system to save every raindrop.
Most buildings already have gutters on them, so why not divert those gutters into the tanks so that they can start collecting this natural resource.
A simple system that helped Reeves FFA chapter win an award for their conservation efforts.
Our goal is to, as a chapter, to start marketing this through our natural resources class next year and start pushing this and promoting this as a way of, hey, this is another form of collecting drinking water for not only your animals and your plants, but also for human consumption.
Harvesting water to save water, one barrel at a time.
Well, some longtime educators are to be inducted into the Career Tech Hall of Fame this week. Phil Birkenbaugh, Dean Denton, Dell DeWitt, B. Paul, and Greg Pierce all spent their careers helping students.
Phil Birkenbaugh is the former director of the Oklahoma Career Tech System and a longtime ag educator where he taught Brian Campbell.
I think I took away how important it was to impact a young person's life and not get so hung up on the actual contest and the outcome of that contest, more about the outcome of that student's life.
Retired business and information technology instructor Dean Denton is a nationally board certified instructor and impacted all he trained.
He never said you can't do this, but he would push you to that next level. And I think that that's what we want to do in Career Tech, is continue progressing and moving to the next level.
Dell DeWitt served in the House of Representatives after retiring as a high school ag educator.
Mr. DeWitt always found a way to help us become successful by teaching us the work ethic that was needed in order to be successful.
B. Paul taught students at Autry Technology Center and Chisholm High School in Enid.
She had that gift that many of us wish that we had, the ability to look at a student and see that untapped potential and gifts that they didn't even know they had.
And Greg Pierce is the former superintendent at Pontotoc Technology Center in Ada.
Greg wasn't one to blow a lot of smoke. He was even-keeled. He was a solid, concrete individual who was the same day in and day out.
Induction into the Hall of Fame is the highest honor bestowed by the Oklahoma Career Tech System.
You can keep up with us throughout the week. Just head to okhorizon.com where you can see more of any of our stories, read our reporters behind the scenes blogs, see what others are saying about us on Twitter, and face the facts with our regular updates. So reach out and touch us anywhere and anytime.
Well, since we've been looking at the impact teachers have on our lives, we thought it only appropriate to end our show with a young lady whose appreciation for her ag instructors is reflected in her FFA address. Here's Oklahoma FFA's Megan DeVeest.
When thinking about what my ag teacher means to me, there's a story that I like to tell that goes a little bit like this. The dinner guests were sitting around the table discussing life. One man, the president of a large company, decided to explain the problem with education. He argued, what's a kid going to learn from someone who decided his best option in life was to become a teacher? He reminded the other dinner guests what people say about teachers. Those who can, do, and those who can't, teach. To prove his point, he turned to one of the other dinner guests and said, "You're an ag teacher. Be honest. What do you make?" Having a reputation for honesty and frankness, the ag teacher replied, "You want to know what I make? I make kids work harder than they ever thought they could. I teach them how to think on their feet and work as a team. I make them question. I make them criticize. I make them apologize and mean it. I teach them how to appreciate the food on their table and balance a checkbook. I make them understand that if they use their brains, set their goals, and follow their dreams, they can accomplish anything. I make them understand that if someone tries to judge them by what they earn, they must never listen, because the question, was never learned. The ag teacher paused and then continued quietly and deliberately. You want to know what I make? I make a difference. What do you make?
Getting a job can be hard for anyone, but especially difficult for those with a disability. Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we look at some unique programs designed to help every Oklahoman enter the workplace.
If you would hold the door open for your friends, hold the door open. If you wouldn't, don't. We're not special people. We just want to be treated like people in general.
Working with a disability on Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, that is going to wrap us up for today, but you can see more of any of our stories on our website at okhorizon.com. You can follow us throughout the week on Twitter at OKHorizonTV, or you can just become a Horizon fan on Facebook. I'm Rob McClendon. Thanks for including us in your day. Hope to see you back here next week.